Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Sicily has a lot of great food. Everybody knows cannoli, and some say even gelato was invented here. These ones are surely among the most famous and beloved. Arancini, or arancine if you're in the western part of the island. This allegedly 1,000-year-old snack takes its name from its resemblance to oranges. But why aren't these ones round, you might ask? Well, at some point this shape became more popular in the eastern part of Sicily. Some say to make arancini look like Mount Etna, a volcano that is indeed on that side of the island. Whether that's true or not, I will be making arancini with 3 different fillings today. So we better get going. First, let's have a look at the part of the preparation that doesn't change regardless of the filling, the rice. I'm going to prepare some vegetable stock with onion, tomato, carrot and celery, in 1.25 liters of water and half a teaspoon of salt. I will let it simmer for an hour and then I'll strain it. The stock should have now reduced to 750 milliliters. At this point, I'm going to crush about 15 strands of saffron in a mortar. This is the best way to make sure that they release all their aroma and color. Then I'm going to infuse it in a quarter of a glass of hot water and I'm going to add it to the stock. And now, the rice. This is 250 grams of carnaroli, but any other rice labeled as risotto rice will do. As the stock is boiling, I'm going to go ahead and throw it in. I'll cook it for 15 minutes to leave it a bit al dente. You don't want to wash this type of rice because you want to retain all the starch to either obtain a creamy risotto or, like in this case, to make the grains stick to each other and, well, prevent arancini from falling apart. After 15 minutes, I'm going to turn off the heat and throw in 20 grams of butter and 30 grams of grated parmesan cheese. Now I'm going to spread it over an oven tray to allow it to cool down so that it's ready once I've prepared the filling. Let's talk about that. I'm going to show you the most common one first, cusucu, which is Sicilian for with ragu. And indeed, I'm preparing a meat ragu. I finely chopped a bit of celery, carrot and onion, and I'm going to saute them in olive oil until the onion is translucent. Then I'm going to add 150 grams of minced pork, but you can also use beef or a mixture of both. The meat has browned, so I add a quarter of a glass of white wine and I let it evaporate. Now I can add 200 milliliters of passata, half a glass of water, and a third of a teaspoon of salt. These ingredient amounts, including the rice, are for 6 arancini. I'm going to let this simmer for about 20 minutes, adding more water if necessary. Then I'm going to add 20 grams of peas that I previously blanched. 5 more minutes on low heat and it will be ready. In the meantime, I'm going to dice 50 grams of kashkaval cheese. It's a type of cheese used in Eastern Europe and Turkey, and it's the closest thing I found to caciocavallo here in the UK. Edam is a close match too, though I find it a bit saltier. Otherwise you can also use mozzarella. And now let's get ready to assemble arancini. I'm going to get back to the rice, and I'm going to use a spatula to divide it into 6 rectangles. Then I'm going to draw another line to cut out a third of each rectangle. And I'll show you why I did it. I'm going to wet my hands with water so that the rice doesn't stick to them, and I'm going to take the larger piece of one of the rectangles. While I hold it in one hand, I use the other hand to place a tablespoon of filling on it, then some cheese, and then the smaller part of the rectangle on top. I'm going to wrap the rice around the filling, and I'm going to give it the shape I'm looking for. You can make arancini round like in Palermo, or conical like in Catania and Messina. Done! And so on with all the others. We're almost there. Now I'm going to prepare a batter with 100 grams of flour, 1 egg, 120 milliliters of water, and a pinch of salt. You can also replace the egg with about 50 or 60 milliliters of water, like I'm going to do for the next batch of arancini. Then I'm going to prepare a dish with about 100 grams of breadcrumbs, but it would have been better to use something larger, like an oven tray. I'm going to dip each arancino in the butter first, drain the excess butter, then I'm going to coat it in breadcrumbs. And they're ready to fry. I'm going to bring 1.5 liters of vegetable oil to above 160 degrees Celsius. Then I'm going to fry the arancini for about 4 or 5 minutes until golden. You can reduce the amount of oil depending on the size of the saucepan you use. I actually used a bit too much here. But considering their shape, I would still recommend to deep fry them to make sure that they're evenly cooked all around. Also, you shouldn't fry more than 2 or 3 of them at a time to prevent the temperature of the oil from dropping too much. Ready, and they're so mouth-watering. But before we give them a try, I want to show you 2 more fillings I made arancini with. I'll start with an aubergine filling named alla Norma after pasta alla Norma, a popular Sicilian pasta dish. For this batch of 6 arancini, I'm only making 3 with this filling. After dicing half an aubergine, I'm going to shallow fry it in vegetable oil until golden brown. Then I'll prepare a simple tomato sauce, a drizzle of olive oil, 200 ml of passata, a garlic clove, a pinch of salt and half a glass of water. I'll let it simmer for about 15 minutes until it has reduced. I can take it off the heat now. The last ingredient I need is 10 grams of grated parmesan cheese. It should be ricotta salata, literally salted ricotta, but you probably won't find it outside of Italy. I'm going to combine everything together, and I'm going to use it to make 3 arancini, just like I showed you before. First the rice, then the filling on top, some cheese, rice again, and then I'll carefully wrap it around. And now, the third filling, pistachio. A bit more time consuming, but absolutely worth it in my opinion. I'll start by blanching 50 grams of pistachios, a couple of minutes. Then I'll rinse them, wrap them with a cloth, and peel the skin off. I'm almost regretting being so thorough with this, and you can skip this step, but I wanted to make sure to have a perfect green result at the end. Now I will roast them in the air fryer for 5 minutes at 160 degrees Celsius. Then I'll let them cool down for 15 minutes. Now that they're dry again, I will transfer them to a grinder. I'm going to set aside 1 or 2 teaspoons when they're still coarsely ground. Then another teaspoon when it looks like a very fine powder. And then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil, and I'll keep blending until I obtain a smooth paste. I'm also going to need 50 grams of mortadella. Cubes would be better, but you normally only find sliced mortadella here in the UK. Now I'm going to prepare a bechamel sauce. Well, a quicker and lighter version without butter. 80 ml of milk, 6 grams of corn flour, and a pinch of salt. When making bechamel sauce this way, it's important to stir the mixture before transferring it to the hob. Corn flour won't dissolve, so I will keep stirring until the sauce reaches temperature and it thickens. At this point, I'm going to throw in the pistachio paste, blend it all well, and adjust for salt and thickness. Then I'm going to add the coarsely ground pistachios, just for a bit of extra crunch, and the mortadella. And now everything is ready to assemble these arancini to. You already know it by now. Rice, filling, cheese, rice again, and then shape it the way you prefer. Then the batter dip, and the breadcrumb coating. I didn't use an egg for this batter, and I made it thinner, but it works just as well. This is a better setup. As you can see, with an oven tray, I can coat the arancini more easily. Like for the Norma version, I only made 3 arancini with pistachios, so you will have to double the ingredient amounts for the filling if you want to make 6. Time to fry them in hot vegetable oil. Finishing touch for the pistachio arancini, I'm dusting them with the pistachio powder I set aside before. And yes, now they're all ready. Let's give them a try. These are the ones with the classic ragu filling. Delicious, you can't get wrong with this. Now the ones with the Norma filling. I'm not vegetarian, but I love aubergines, and this is fantastic too. Finally, the pistachio one. Well worth the effort. This might actually be my new favorite arancino. And which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, whether you already tried them or if you're going to try them after watching this video. And if you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. It's free and it really helps my channel. So, where are we going next?